every once in a while we try to highlight a topic. So tonight the format is going to be this. We're going to have a presentation from our police and fire chiefs, just to kind of go over some of the issues with their buildings, with their facilities. And then I'll talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to open it up for whatever, like a regular town forum that we do, which is whatever you want to talk about. We're happy to answer questions and concerns and talk about the police and fire, the public facilities, but know that we're not limited to that. Okay, so if you're here about a stop sign, or you hear about whatever else it is that you want to talk about, this is a town forum. It's open for anything that you want to address. Commissioner Leonard, Commissioner Lewandowski's here. We're all talking about whatever you want to. We're going to start off with Chief Davis, right? Chief Davis is going to start off, give a little presentation of kind of how things are, kind of go over some of the things you've seen already. If you've done the tour, if not, give a little bit of a perspective. Okay, Chief?
Thanks for having me. I've been on the department for over 21 years. I started as a volunteer. I was 2 years before that. And I was born and raised in Collingswood, and I live on Penn Ave with my wife and 3 kids. That's just a little bit about myself. I'd like to go into a little bit about the fire department, how we operate, the current facility that we've been operating out of, and why we think we need a new facility, or why we know we need a new facility to support our current operations and also our future operations. A little bit of background. We're mostly full-time employees. We do have a volunteer segment. There are only 2 currently certified volunteer firefighters that are active inside the department right now. What we do fire. We also do all the EMS. We also do all the fire inspections in town. We also do all the code enforcement, the property maintenance stuff that's run out of our office. And we're also in charge of emergency management for the town. So all that stuff is conducted out of our facility at the firehouse currently. We do share a inspection office with Penn Sawkins, so we do have some staff over there at the office also. So our staffing is 24/7, 365, so there's always a crew on around the clock at the fire station to answer all the fire and emergency medical calls. So they'll come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they won't leave till 8 o'clock the following morning, and then they do a rotational schedule for that. So during the day, Monday through Friday, we could have up to 9 people working with our full and part-time staff. And after that, about 4 or 5 will be working off hours. So we currently have 18 full-time and 4 part-time employees. One of those full-time employees is administrative staff that works in the inspection office. 2 of the part-timers work out of the inspection office, and 2 work out of the fire department. So since 2003, we've applied for and received over $1.8 million in federal and state grants for the department. Some of those things include gear, equipment, capital improvements for our equipment, and also staffing. So our ladder truck was on a grant. We just got a exhaust vac system that takes the diesel smoke from the trucks and evacuates it out of the station. So all that was purchased on the grant, with minimal impact to out of the general fund. So about the building, in 1895, it was a wood frame building, steam engine with a horse, right on Collins Avenue when it was a dirt road and mostly farmland. So at that time, it was an optimal location for a fire department because it was centrally located in town. In 1895, not a great picture, but it was a hand drawing that we dug up. In 1902, they tore down that wood frame building and built a brick 2-story building right in that same place to house the bigger engine that they had purchased. In 1910, they added on. At one time, there was borough offices on the 2nd floor, and the Bell Telephone Exchange building was on the 3rd floor, and we had a police jail cell in the back of the building at one time. The trend hasn't changed much over the last several decades. 1906, that's the building right there, the 3-story building, which doesn't currently sit there today. Because in 1942, they purchased a new ladder truck, which was a bigger piece of equipment, and it wasn't able to fit in that small bed on the bottom left-hand side that you see there. So they had to totally redo the whole facility to fit the new apparatus, and get it into the building. Today, this part of the building still sits there from 1942, and we can only fit our ambulances in there. There's not a fire truck that you can pretty much build nowadays to get it to fit in that side of the building, because it's only 9'7" on the height. In '84, they built this two-story addition off to the side of the building, and that was to add the ambulance and the additional apparatus that we purchased that couldn't fit in the other side of the building. So it was pretty much an expansion, and at the time, the two offices that currently sit there, if you did the tour, they were bunk rooms at the time for the paid staff that worked at the building. So our issues with the current fire station, that red line is the footprint that our building sits on currently. So it's really not a square, it's not a rectangle, it's hard. The angle and the trajectory to the street is very difficult. Our big apparatus sits on these two where that '84 addition was built. And to come out and swing right, we have to go up onto the sidewalk so we don't clip the tail end of the truck on the building there. And we have to almost hit a tree and a telephone pole there, and then we have to back up and then go out like a K-turn. So when the traffic light is red and cars are backed all the way up on a Friday, Saturday night or during school hours, all the way back down to Atlantic Avenue, we have to wait for the light to turn green to actually leave our building, because we can't just push the cars out of our way, because they would go out onto Haddon Avenue onto traffic that doesn't know that we're coming out of our station or why they'd be running the red light. So as you can see, this is a normal traffic condition out in front of our station here, and they're pulling towards Haddon Avenue with the traffic light there. And this is our apparatus trying to make that K-turn. That's the earliest point that that truck can turn without clipping the building to be able to go. So we're constantly backing up, which causes a lot of hindrances and a delay in our response time. So right now we're currently at a major intersection in town, which isn't optimal for a fire station. We're in the downtown central business district that, as we all know, has grown drastically over the last decade or so. And all the events that we host in town, we're deadlocked right in the middle of that. So when Haddon Avenue is closed down for those events, or even the coin drops and the Clover Market and all the stuff that happens on Atlantic Avenue with all the traffic and the pedestrians, we're pretty much deadlocked in there, so it delays our response time. If we had to turn right to go out, and now that we can't, we have to go all the way around down to Urban. We can't even go up Urban most of the time. We really have to transcend around the whole neighborhood to get all the way to the other side of town, so it delays our response time in an emergency. So as we know, fire doubles every 30 seconds. This is the stuff we've been teaching the kids all month long inside the schools. And cardiac arrest survival decreases by 7 to 10% each minute without CPR. So our response time is literally 30 seconds. Could be life or death for somebody. I'm just going to play a little video that we had of our truck trying to respond during an emergency. It's really quick. This is them having to wait for that light to turn green. As you see, when the light turns green, they can start moving. In the reflection, you can see that their lights are on. The light finally turned green, the traffic's moving, now they get to proceed. And there's where they have to stop and back up and proceed on so that they can go. So we can't see behind us too well, so if there's pedestrians or bicyclists, they don't know that we're going to back up, it becomes a dangerous situation. When we're pulling out, we go out onto Haddon Avenue, it's that hard right-hand turn. So as we're coming out, it's a blind curve coming on. So a lot of times we're almost head-to-head with the traffic that's turning off the Haddon Avenue to come down on the Collins Avenue. So it's very dangerous. Our spatial issues. As you can see, that's our ladder truck, 40 foot long. The apron is only about 25 feet long. So we can't get the apparatus all the way out on the street to do the checks, tilt the cabs to check the engines and all the fluids. So a lot of times we'll pull it out crossways along the apron, but that also blocks it for pedestrians that would have to walk. If you can see, it's hard on the picture, but there's a pedestrian walking out in the street with their dog to get around the truck. When we do school demos, it's hard to pull the trucks out to have the kids walk around, to look at the trucks. We have to kind of cone off Collins Avenue a little bit, and that kind of narrows the lane of traffic, which is dangerous also. This is our ladder truck, and that's the ceiling. So the ladder truck is 11'7", and the ceiling is 12 foot. So if there's a little bit of snow on the apron when we're backing in, it kind of bumps up. We have to be very careful it doesn't hit the ceiling. Also, if we order another piece of apparatus or a ladder truck, most likely a lot of trucks due to be replaced for a facility or try to make some type of renovation. But as you can see, the way that building sits, it's very difficult for that large truck to get out of there. This is our boat backed up into gear lockers that we had to clear out because we didn't have enough room to walk between the boat and the truck we connected to. Newton Lake, Cooper River, Water and Ice Rescues were currently going out on that stuff for the boats. Spatial issues walking around the trucks. New facility, the bay doors would be 14 by 14 foot and about 20 foot high so that we could tilt the cabs inside the facility. This, as you saw where the ceiling is, the bay doors are only about 12 by 12. This door opens and it smacks the pole there, so you got to be very careful when you're getting in the cab that it doesn't do that. And also walking around the apparatus with the hoses that connect to the trucks for the diesel exhaust fumes, they block the alleyways to walk through if you were on the tour. So office space. This is our one and only really business office that we have, and it's for the lieutenant and the captain that are working. Any confidential business that they have to do, they just shut the doors, but the kitchen and training room conference room, and if you saw it, it's not big enough to be all three of those things, is right on the other side of the one wall. So it's really not a good confidential area because the ceiling above the drop ceiling and the wall doesn't go all the way up, so it's open. So pretty much you can hear people talking from the kitchen training area. That's my office where I conduct business. The doors are open because this is that alleyway on the first picture is where you get up to the front of the building for when people come visit the firehouse to conduct their business. So constantly the staff is walking through my office all day long to answer the front door, to go answer the phones, or to do their reports on the computer. Or if not, they'd have to walk all the way out in the apparatus bay and then back into the front. Sometimes when I have to conduct confidential business, I shut the doors, but again, the walls weren't built for its office space. It used to be a bunk room just for the paid staff that was there. So it's hard to conduct confidential business. Sometimes I'll go out into my vehicle and talk on my cell phone when I have a confidential phone call with me. Record storage area. This is our radio room / EOC, so Emergency Operations Center. So when there's a large event in town like the Mayfair, or we have a large storm that rolls through, or the snowstorms, we open up the Emergency Operations Center. So that brings in the police, fire, public works, and the commissioners and the mayor into the office, and we run the emergency from there. There's only 2 desk spaces there and 2 radios there, so really it's not optimal working conditions for all those people. This is our one and only bathroom with a shower in it. So when we come back and we have to decontaminate our bodies, and we should do that immediately because of the carcinogens or any of the bloodborne pathogens that we're exposed to, everyone should be getting showers immediately. We all have to wait in line to get a shower because it's the only one in the space there, and that's the only toilet facility to get changed. So, obviously a new facility, they would have enough of that to decontaminate everybody on the ship at the same time. When you walk into the front of the building, this is where everyone comes to conduct their business. Obviously, it's not ADA compliant. It has a step there. The heavy door to open. Once you get inside, you see that shelf and the window are very high, so someone in a wheelchair obviously couldn't get in there, but if they could get in there, they wouldn't be able to conduct their business with the table and the window height. Also, as you can see in the ceiling, there's water intrusion. You've seen ceiling tiles are replaced regularly, and that's because someone drove through that at one time about 15 years, 20 years ago, and they just can't get it right. We've replaced the roof, we've replaced the side, the brickwork, and tried to patch that all up, but the water just constantly leaks in there. If you look on the floor drains under here, that's where the trucks drip. Sometimes they drip oil, sometimes the water washes off it, any contaminants on the outside coming back from a call. That goes right into there and out into the sewer system. A new building would have an oil-water separation system in there that would separate all that before it went into the regular sewer system. This drain system runs all the way back into the bunk room because the bunk room was built temporarily 15 years ago when we added staff, and it's in a storage room that has the same flooring in it. So one of those drains is just covered up with some plywood underneath carpet in one of the bunk rooms, which is obviously is not a healthy condition. So this is the bunk room area, and we had a knocked holes in the wall to put the window air conditioning unit for the staff. The walls to the bunk rooms don't go all the way up to the ceiling, so it's not optimal for our female staff that we have. And then that was just a ceiling heater unit. It was for a storeroom, but now we use it to, climate control for the bunk rooms. Again, water intrusion into the ceilings. The roof was just replaced not too long ago, and this is brand new stains. It's where the two buildings were butted up against each other, and the drainage system runs down that wall. So they just can't figure out a way to patch that it doesn't leak water inside the building anymore. We do have a lot of pest issues. Cockroaches, mice. They had They had a mouse run from the kitchen today across the floor and out the room. We're right near all the restaurants. Their dumpsters sit right outside our back door. So really, it's not a great environment for the staff to work in. Nowadays, they have what they would do in a new facility. We just attended a conference in Raleigh about new station design. They have a hot zone design for facilities. So all the contamination would stay in the one main area when you come in, and then there would be a warm zone where you would decontaminate everything, and then the green zone would be the living space and the office space, which would be the clean area. Nothing would be cross-contaminated in. Now when we come back, that bathroom with the shower facility, you have to walk through the office space to get to it, so it cross-contaminates that area. And the washer and dryer is in the back of the facility, where you would have to walk through the bunk rooms to clean your gear. So everything's cross-contaminated throughout the whole facility. And again, no female facilities, locker rooms, private bunk rooms, or anything like that. That's one of our pets. Why not renovate the current facility? As you saw, the footprint of the building would not make it ideal. The location is not optimal anymore with the way the downtown has grown. And also just that angle of the station, with our apparatus and the size it is today and what it's going to be in the future, it's just not going to work for us being able to pull out seamlessly and go on to an emergency call. But we would have to bring up that building, if we were to stay there, up to the IBEC Essential Facility Codes, which is the most stringent building code you could have for a facility. And that's going to cost a lot of money instead. It'd be a lot cheaper to build it from the ground up that way. Like I said, it won't correct the angle of the station, the heavy traffic that's in that area now. And when we found out from the conferences, it's more expensive to renovate a facility like this than build one from scratch from the ground up. And if we were to do that, it's going to disrupt our operations. We'd have to move somewhere temporarily. Those temporary structures and facilities we would have to rent would go upwards of about $500,000 to do that. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Carey, and then at the end, hopefully we can answer any questions or comments that you may have. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kevin Carey. I'm the police chief in town. I've been involved with the department since around 2001 in one capacity or another. Born and raised in Collingswood, I still live here today with my wife and daughter. Start with a little background of the department. So the facility was purchased by the borough in 1942. The purpose was to use it for the wartime civil defense program. The police department moved into the building in 1950, and since that time, we've made some alterations to the interior of the building, but nothing really done to the exterior of the building. The actual operations of the department, where we're working day in and day out, are pretty present times. I don't know the exact time when the building was built. We recently replaced the heater of the building. It was a 1913 heater, had been converted and upfitted over a couple of years, so I would imagine the building dates at least to that time. We are a 24/7 operation. We have up to 15 staff members working at a time Monday through Friday during business hours, which would be between 8 and 4. Around 5 o'clock to 8 in the morning, that number drops down to between 3 and 5 officers. 3 is our minimum staffing, 5 is the full platoon working. They generally operate outside of the station. They're roving patrol. They don't really generally operate out of the building. 31 full-time employees, including civilian and sworn staff, 1 part-time employee, 15 crossing guards, and 23 special officers that we use for special events. As you can imagine, the building is quite small to be able to house that number of employees. Grants, to really get into it too much, we typically receive around 5 grants a year. That number fluctuates because there's different grants. It could be anything from grants for vehicles, grants for bulletproof vests, grants for ammunition, a wide range of things. Pedestrian safety grants, seatbelt grants, so the number to really narrow down is hard. See the These are pictures. The picture on the left is 1959. The picture on the right was taken about a week and a half ago. Chief Davis had mentioned that in 1984, I believe, they did an addition to the firehouse because they took on ambulance services. In 1959, there was 3 bays on the back of the building where we restored the station wagon, which took care of the ambulance service. When that was overtaken by the fire department, they put up temporary walls in those bays, and they became our emergency generator storage, they became our secure booking facility, and they became our locker room and lunchroom. So the temporary walls are really the only difference between then and now. The outline in red is our building and our parking lot. You'll notice it is located between the main parking for our downtown on South Atlantic Avenue and Haddon Avenue. So anytime you're going to be parking and going up Haddon Avenue, you're traversing right past our police department. Makes it a little problematic when we respond. We're essentially responding through a parking lot. The other issues with location are all the events that we have. So the Clover Market actually shuts down that parking lot right in front of our building, so we have to put a gate on the back to be able to get out and exit where the fire department exits on Commons Avenue. Farmers Market is out front every Saturday, although the street's not closed. Urban Avenue is closed, so we can't respond that way. And there's also an increase in pedestrian and vehicular traffic. It poses a safety issue not only for the officers, but for people in the area. People later respond. So spatial issues. The 3 bottom pictures are our evidence room. The 2 on the left are what's called our working evidence room. That is located downstairs. As you can tell, there's not much room at all for any more evidence that we currently have in there. The one on the right is actually a temporary evidence we built because we outgrew the space downstairs, so that's now our long-term evidence storage. What that is our interview room. We put a temporary wall up in between so that we can have some extra space for our evidence, and that's where we're storing that. So we cut our interrogation and our interview room in half so we can store some of our long-term evidence upstairs. Record storage, most of that is off-site, the Smith Electric building, for those who are familiar with that. We keep about a year and a half worth of records in our building. We just don't have the space to keep the records outside of that time. Although things are starting to get digitized now, it wasn't the case for many, many years, and there are records that we're stuck with for a long time. Start our spatial issues off with our detective bureau. So we used to have the detective bureau on site, and they are now actually in a space at the Parkview and Collins Square. They're no longer in our building. We just ran out of room for them. That makes it very, very problematic operations-wise to have them in a separate location. Multi-purpose spaces, we have quite a few of them. The top left picture is actually a picture of our agent's office. So he is our evidence custodian. So we take in our evidence there. We process all of our evidence in that area. In addition, is where he does all of our firearms applications. You'll notice some of the green things on the right-hand side of that picture also. That is where we do our meter and kiosk repair. That's where we store all of our extra parts for the meters and kiosks. The other side of that, which you cannot see, where I took the picture from, is our conference room. So there's a conference table there also. There's a television up on the wall. If we have any DUI cases or anything like that, or any attorneys that want to come into our building to review a case, that's where that would be done as well. The picture next to that on the top is our deputy chief's office. You can't really see the picture, but there are our servers there as well. So it gets very, very loud in there and very, very hot in there. We added a window unit, which adds to the audible issues. And our deputy chief is responsible for our internal affairs unit. So anytime you come into the station and you're going to have a confidential conversation with someone, you have to complain about an officer, that's where you would conduct that business, which is very difficult to do given the issues in the office. The bathroom on the top is the one and only working bathroom in the first floor of the police department. That is shared by male and female staff. It is also shared by any detainees that we might have in the building. We used to have toilets in their cells. They no longer work. So now we all share one bathroom. To make that even a little bit better, the picture on the right on the top is our captain's office. So he is our patrol captain. He runs a patrol division within the department. That bathroom is actually located within his office. Not only is it the one and only bathroom, it's also the captain's office. The bottom left picture is a picture of our sergeant's office. It's also our intake for any walk-in complaints. That's also actually where the other evidence room is located as well. So that kind of serves multi-purposes there. It's problematic to have a space that's supposed to be shared by our sergeants as well as any walk-in complaints that might come in. Two pictures on the bottom in the middle, that is the same room. One half of it is our locker rooms, the other half of that is our lunch and dinner break room. Notice that there aren't any lockers in there at all. There are no separate male and female lockers. There's no spacing exchange. There's no privacy in that area whatsoever. There used to be a carpet on the floor back there as well, kind of make it a little more homey. However, due to water intrusion issues, work came into the back of our building. We had to rip that carpet up to prevent any kind of fall. The spatial issues, again, on the second floor of the building. The picture on the right is our interview room. So that is that room where I said one half of it is now evidence, one half is our interview room. So we have issues with ADA that you have to go up the steps to be able to be interrogated in our building if you're in custody for any reason. The other issue is the door to the back of that is actually the door to the fire escape leading out of our building. So we hope that when we bring someone up for an interrogation, they don't see us go lock the door with the key and take it into the room right across from the interrogation. To speak about ADA compliance, I already mentioned it a little bit, but the door on the right is the door coming into our booking area or the back. So anytime we would bring a detainee or prisoner in, we would have to become in ADA compliance with that. If we put a ramp in there, it makes it a tripping hazard. It's very difficult to do. The step on the left-hand side is how you get into our patrol operations area. So again, not capable of being ADA compliant. That actually opens up and there's no room for a ramp to even come into compliance. Parking, the issues we have with parking are not only that we don't have secure parking for our personnel or our patrol vehicles, although there's a fence up, the fence is open on one end, there's no access control in and out of that parking lot. We routinely have people go in, park in there, and go up to the avenue and go shopping, things like that. The other issue with parking is that anyone that comes to visit our building parks in the public parking lot. So we can't guarantee there's going to be any parking spaces there. So you could have a block and a half walk to actually get to our building, and there's no handicap spaces on it. Our cell block area, the picture on the top right, they are our holding cells. They are bars which are not allowed by state law anymore. So we file for an exemption every year to be able to use that. But with that comes some extra requirements that we have to check on any detainee in there every 3 minutes. Obviously, not very conducive to business. To avoid that, the picture in the top in the middle is where we keep our adult detainees. Typically, we just chain them to that bench that we built. And the one to the left is where we keep our juvenile detainees. So the other thing the state law requires is sight and sound separation between male and female detainees, and it certainly requires sight and sound separation between adult and juvenile detainees. We don't have the space to be able to do that. So typically, if we do have a juvenile that's detained at the same time as an adult, we use that sergeant's office or intake safe room to house the juvenile. Safety and security, there's no public and private space. The picture at the bottom is walking in from our head lobby into our headquarters. You're actually walking right into our patrol operations area. So there's no separation to bring people into our building for that walking complaints or anything that they want to come to our building to conduct business where they can't be done through the reception area. So there's no separation between people coming into our main patrol operations area. The picture in the next to that is our booking facility. In the back, you'll see that there's a locker room. So our locker room and break room is actually right next to our secured cell block area. I mentioned our parking lot, although it is fenced and says do not enter, it is open to the public and people generally park in. Building access and layouts. The picture on the top right is that door that our main entrance into our building for any civilians that might come in. Not the best lock in the world, but the temporary wall that we put up, that's kind of the best that we can do. It's not really worth putting a metal frame in there because the wall isn't secure enough to be able to handle that. There's no bulletproof glass for the reception area, which is required. And the top picture to the left is our patrol operations area. There are 3 windows there, so anyone that does come into our lot sees right into our patrol operations area. It's also easy access into our building. Not the best location for the main hub of the operations department. However, due to spatial constraints, that's the largest area that you can have those 3 to 5 officers who are working the street sit down and be able to touch them. Telecommunications. That's just a few pictures of how we've kind of grown technology-wise, and we're out of space to be able to hold all of these things that we have. There's no fire suppression to protect any of the telecommunications things. There's also fire suppression to protect any of the evidence that we have. We're recommending that. So there's no alarm system in the building. Our HVAC system and our generator are both unprotected, so anyone can just walk up to our building and have easy access to either one of those systems. Building access, the picture on the top right is Our interview room, as I said, is not located in our cell block area, so if you are a detainee, we're going to speak with you. We have to bring you to our patrol operations area, go up the steps, and talk to you in that interview room where you have access out to our fire station. Health issues, our HVAC system is failing. The two top pictures are stains on the ceiling tiles. They don't look that bad. However, we do monthly maintenance on our building, so those tiles are replaced monthly. The picture to the right on the top is the condensation line of our HVAC system. I'm not really sure what that stuff is coming out of it, but at any rate, it doesn't look very good to me. The cell block issues, the picture on the bottom left, it's hard to read that, but it says heater room. So our heater is actually located in the same space that we have our detainees. So anytime we bring detainees in and hold them in those temporary holding facilities, it's right next to the heater as well, which is not allowed by state law. The picture in the middle of the bottom is the drain, so we can decontaminate our cell area. If anyone were to spit or be bleeding or any other bodily fluids that might be in that area, we can decontaminate that area and use that drain to wash it out. That drain is no longer operational. Neither is the picture on the bottom right. That's where the toilet used to be in the cells. Plumbing there is connected, runs out to North Atlantic Avenue. Somewhere in that area, it collapsed and it's no longer functional. Water intrusion in the back room, I noted, so our parking lot is actually higher than our booking area, that step down. So anytime it rains hard, water comes right underneath those temporary walls that used to be the overhead doors. Pest issues, anytime you have humidity and water intrusion in a building, you're going to have pests. Anything that flies, we have cockroaches, mice, rats, we have all. So why not renovate? To bring the building up to full compliance with current ADA and energy codes, so that's if we were to touch the building at all to try to make any type of renovation, we would have to come up to full compliance with ADA and energy codes, energy and electrical codifications. So I mentioned that our heater was a 1913 heater. It was converted a couple times. It's now a heater that's, although new, isn't large enough to keep our building appropriately. Our HVAC system leaks, and this obviously doesn't work to cool our building as it should either. So the other reason to not renovate is we don't have any airborne mold issues. We've had tests done, but as soon as you start renovating and breaking up things, that mold left alone might be okay, but as soon as you start renovating, move that around, that's when things that happen. The design of the building doesn't lend itself to efficient utilization of spaces. So just the layout of the building and the way it's set up, even if we were to be able to renovate somehow, we couldn't change the spaces that we have. So the layout of the building isn't conducive for operations. So I mentioned that we have to go to ADA compliance. I also mentioned that we have exemptions for our cell block that we file for every year. So we are a pre-existing non-conforming structure that allows us to continue to apply for those exemptions. If we were to do any work to the building exterior, all those exemptions we would not be eligible for any longer. We'd have to have a sally port, we would have to have secured parking, a private interview room, evidence processing and storage, that we just don't have the room for whatsoever. So even if we were to renovate that current building where we are, we wouldn't have the room necessary to be able to pass all of these inspections. And it won't address the traffic and pedestrian concerns out front of our building. And lastly, it would be very, very negative on our operations if we were to temporarily relocate. Our protective area being in a separate location now is a hit on our operations as it is. Relocating all of our operations would be very, very problematic. The benefits of a shared public space are pretty much we can share rooms. Those HVAC and all those different mechanical things that we'd be upgrading, we'd be upgrading at one time. You'd be heating in one building, cooling in one building, electricity from one building, so the cost would be lower to run one facility rather than two separate facilities. We've got a cooperation with the two of us, although we like each other, despite the police and fire jokes, we do get along. But being in the same building would make it hard to ignore one another, hard to not say hello to one another. So it would also help us with training. We're in the same building, a lot easier to work out training together. I'll leave our contact information up there for anyone who would like to jot me down. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to I want to wrap the presentation part of this, and then we'll roll into our town forum. So let me just give you a little bit of what we've been doing about this for the last 12 years. Back when this community center was built, so longer than 12, the community center was not finished. So the one side of this building is not brick, it's all cinder block. That side of this building was all with an eye toward the expansion of public facilities for one reason or another, whether it was, what you haven't seen a presentation about is our courts. If you've ever been there, our courts are as bad, if not worse, than what the police and fire is. In fact, the courts, our administrative office of the courts are moving in downstairs, down here, temporarily, and this is functioning as the court, which is why many of you are on the court chairs, as opposed to the nice cushiony chairs, which are the wedding chairs that are usually in this room, okay? So part of that adding on to this building was always contemplated for some role in our public facilities. And we actually did work on one site, on the M&E Marine site, which is out on Route 130, near our compost facility. There's a big piece of land used to house a warehouse for marine supplies, boat supplies. The borough got that property in a tax foreclosure. That burned down, but we have this big empty piece of land. So back around the time when, in 07, I want to say, 06, when we were looking about doing something major with these public facilities, we had that site investigated by our engineers, really by the engineers, to see if we could fit. The goal then was to get public works there and our police station there. And the feedback that we got was that it would not all fit at that time. And then the recession hit, and then we had severe cuts in our state aid, and it sent us reeling to the extent that we could not, we had to we laid off firemen, we had laid off police officers, and we were in no position to be doing anything in terms of building new facilities when we couldn't even keep police and firemen on the job. So that put us in a little bit of a tailspin for a number of years. We have slowly kind of reorganized the borough, built ourselves back out of that, added new ratables in town that help defer what those expenses are, and gotten our departments back pretty much to the same position that they were before. So a couple years ago, we revisited the M&E Marine site. That site, we wanted to put police and public works there because we felt that they were the facilities that their location within town is not as critical as a fire department's is. Police officers, we're all hoping, are responding from their vehicles, so they can be pretty much anywhere in town. And our public works department, there's no life and death calls. The pothole will get filled when the truck gets there, okay? So what we've done in the last year or so is that what's become clear is that the M&E Marine site will not work for both police and fire. Will not work for DPW and police. DPW, we believe, will fit there from engineering. Even though it looks like a really big site, there are a lot of what's referred to as wetlands constraint. There's a lot of environmental issues there because it's so close to the Newton Creek. You can't build within certain buffers of the creek. So actually, a preliminary building design would kind of be an L-shaped building that will be back on Woodland Avenue, right? Is that the right street? I got that right car on the back, right? Was it Harrison on the back? So sit on the back away from the creek, and we'd be able to pave a lot of that to do parking that would be available for the storage of vehicles there. So then that left us with looking at other locations. We looked at M&E, we looked back here along this run between our building here and the water tower about whether or not we could fit any of these facilities in there. Fire, for one, has all kinds of issues with respect to many of the same issues you saw in terms of turning radius, have parking, and vehicle traffic in the way. The police would be a similar issue. It would still, you know, we're not dead with it yet, but it's possible that a police could work in here, but it also has impacts in terms of, it takes up a lot of space, has to be on the first floor, and we did some preliminary look at that, but then what opened up was the 434 building, which is up on Haddon, just beyond the Methodist home. That property's been for sale for a number of years now. We did some preliminary look at that, and we're moving forward on a plan. Actually, tomorrow we'll go out on what's called an RFQ, or request for qualifications, to a number of architectural firms to talk to someone about hiring them, about looking at that site. We're exploring the idea of a combination police and fire station, because as the chief mentioned, we think there'll be some great, some efficiencies to be achieved that can save us all some money and help in operations by having it in a combined building. So we're starting that look, okay? One other place we looked at was the VOA building over on Harrison and the White Horse Pike. We had heard that's going to go for sale. The Volunteers of America have some state grant money to move into Camden, but so we did some preliminary look at that building to see if a police department would fit within that building. It doesn't. It gets squeezed way too much. Still a lot of the same issues that we have with our accommodations today would not really work there. Plus, the building's not for sale. The VOA hasn't moved on the construction of their new headquarters. So for all intents and purposes right now, it's not available. So with that, we're going out to look at the architecture to see if this facility could possibly fit at that site. We're doing this a lot more publicly than we have before because we don't own the site, and because we had to go, we felt we had to make the move to acquire the property. It's under contract right now. The owners have to demolish the buildings that are there. If we wanted to do that because we felt if we had a public discussion about it and then went to buy it, it would cost a lot more money. So we're doing it this way. And if this does not fit there, the public safety facility, like it didn't fit where we hoped it would fit on M&E Marine, and it didn't fit at the VOA, if it doesn't fit here, and we can't get done there what we would like to see done, then we'll just work with developers. We'll develop that site. We'll get that site developed in a way that gets some more ratables for us, instead of just letting it sit as a big empty piece of nothing that's getting vandalized and causing its own set of problems. So that's kind of a little bit of a little jagged timeline of what we've been trying to do with this. I can tell you that the other big part of this that we're also working on to try to set us up to see if we can handle this is how would we pay for this, okay? Big issue, I know it's a big issue. It's a big issue for us personally. It's a big issue for the borough. So I'll tell you just one of the things, and I just got something in from our financial advisor the other day, but we're kind of projecting the new Parkview apartments, which the Heights at Whitehorse Pike and Collins has been renamed again back to the Parkview because it's got new owners in. And the Parkview, which is a good thing, they're great new owners. We're very excited about them coming in. We think there's already been major improvements done on the structure of those buildings, and we believe that there's going to be more work that's going to be done on that, and all that's good for all of us. Okay, so with that though, that's a redevelopment project of the boroughs. We've been in a payment in lieu agreement there for 22 years now. It still runs for another 12, 13 years, and it has some pretty substantial increases that are coming up over the term of those 13 years. So it's a double-edged sword. There'll be additional revenue coming out of that property, but at the end of that 12, 13 years, that additional revenue stops, okay? and we would go back to the property being fully taxed, which means that the borough would be receiving substantially less money than what it does during this pilot, during this time period. So it's a combination of what can we use this, even though it's over 12 years, which seems like a long time, in the life of this borough, it's really not, and it's really some one-time revenue over those 12 years. What can we do with that money? And one of the concepts that we would do, which is what we've done with the money we made on parking before, is dedicated to capital improvement. So we're working out if that money can be used in a way that's beneficial, that helps, it will substantially reduce the cost to taxpayers. What those numbers are, have no idea if there's a building can go there, have no idea what the building's gonna look like, we have no idea about all of it. But we're kind of floating some different concepts to get ourselves prepared that if this does work and move forward, then this is potentially a way that we could help defray the costs. Not to mention, once we get more of a site and a plan, we can work on trying to get grant money, there's community development money, there's a program called the Small Cities Program that we may be able to make benefit of. So a lot of this is early stage. You're seeing us as we look at different parts of this. We've already met with the neighborhood. I know some of the neighbors are here tonight. A lot of concerns and questions and folks that aren't thrilled with us looking at this. As I told them, and I'll tell all of you, we're looking at it. We're working through this process. We will do more of these as we have something to talk about. And so that's kind of where we are. That kind of completes kind of the presentation part of the public safety facilities. So how about, do you want to like kick off and just do a little bit of opening and just talk a little bit about stuff going on in town, and then we'll open up the floor?
Sure.
You want to do that? Like town forum? Like start our town forum format? 50 minutes later?
Rob Lewandowski. Hi, welcome everyone. And I don't know if you noticed, by the way, but during the mayor's presentation, some of our firefighters and paramedics actually got a call. And you probably didn't notice it because they just have little, gadgets on them that lets them know there's no big sirens, there's no big alert, because they're full-time, always staff. That you don't have what I remember as a kid, the traditional big siren. So I'm just going to mention that. By the way, leaf collection has started. It's a really big thing to let everyone know. Started like 16th, Carl, last week, something like that. So please, if you have leaves, not in the street, but actually on the county strip, the piece of grass from the sidewalk to the street, please put your stuff there. We have the hoses and we'll get that stuff up. If you happen to live near, we had rain today, I know it becomes difficult. If you happen to live near a storm drain, obviously anything you can do to keep that clear obviously is important in terms of safety for all of us. We go out there, we were out there today actually doing just that work. But as much as if you see something and you can help, that's wonderful. So that's a big thing to talk about. We're going to have questions. So
you got it. And I'll give you just a little update on some buildings on the avenue. The building where Heartside is, a new restaurant in town, that obviously is completed. McFarland's, equipment has been delivered, plumbers are inside, electricians are inside. I've only been giving this update for about 5 years now, but I do believe that there will be a food market in my lifetime. Not wood, there's still time, who knows, but I believe that's coming. Over across the way here, where Il Fiore is, the little sliver of a store next door, the borough actually, we should have done it sooner, but we moved on eminent domain and acquired that property. It had been tied up for 8 years in a foreclosure bankruptcy where banks and lawyers were fighting about it, and so we moved to acquire it by eminent domain. When we do that, the money, we get an appraisal done, we pay that money into court, and then all the legal fights follow the money. We go fight in court about that money, who gets what money, and part of that money is coming to us because there's taxes that rode on it, so we get some of it back. But we're in an agreement with Londi at Il Fiore. He should be starting construction soon. on that building. He's going to make it into a waiting room up in the front, which somebody texted me, I think it was my sister texted me last Saturday night. She was at Conciliary, and she's like, why are these people standing on the sidewalk? But he'll have a waiting room, and he's doing like a party room in the back. It won't be just an expansion of the restaurant. It's going to be a waiting room and a party room in the back. So that's kind of the status and stuff that you see. Joan, you want to?
Yeah, well, if you go on my block, after having the world's biggest dumpster in front of 801 Hatton Avenue, we now have the planet's biggest dumpster in front of the old Masonic Lodge. So it must be the same dumpster, because I keep thinking you can fit 5 houses. But anyway, it's in front of the Masonic Lodge next door to the Health Works, because that building has been sold.
And it's going to be a
karaoke?
family karaoke center. We're going to incorporate that into our town forums. If you're going to ask a question, you're going to have to sing a song first.
Ask a question, you have to sing in a microphone. Right? So, but anyway, there's always something new, right? There's always somebody trying a new business. God bless. Right? There's always something new. Now, in terms of some local issues with the environment, you might have seen in your town crier that on November 4th we have our annual Night Park Breakup Cleanup. It's a chance to go to the pavilion and get a cup of coffee and rake a little bit. So there's 8 billion leaves, so everybody can really feel like they did something, even if you only did a little bit. It's really nice because maybe 100 people would show up and help a little bit. The park is beautiful, and it's a nice time to sort of be part of nature and fall with that if you're interested in doing that. It's 9 o'clock on November 4th. And then November 11th, we're working a bunch of volunteers, some church people working with the downtown Hatton Avenue tree planting. So we have lost many trees to bacterial leaf scorch, some diseases that have hit the avenue. And because the county will be working on Hatton Avenue eventually, put this off for a while, but we kind of think the beautification of the avenue and all of our borough is so important. So we're going to move forward. If anybody's interested, just give me a shout out and you can come and join the group, bring a shovel, a pitchfork, and we'll plant some trees, maybe a dozen. We're also going to the west side planting a couple of blocks on Ritchie Avenue. Next month also, there's about 10 neighbors who are interested in trees. We're working with them and on Harvard Avenue. So part of what we try to do with these various little projects in town is really spearheaded by block captains and people interested, so that the borough funds for things like planting trees works with you, with your interest, with your whole block. We just introduced the first American chestnut trees to Collingswood. Eric is here, an expert in chestnut trees, and we haven't had them in at least 100 years, so they're this big, and we will bless them and pray over them every day because we want to have the best American chestnuts. And they're planted on the west side near our community gardens, which we have 1 community garden, now we have 2 community gardens, and they're highly successful by very dedicated organic gardening people here who are brilliant people.
I know they are.
To really applaud yourselves. But it's really great to see all of those initiatives moving forward and expanding in the borough so nicely in so many areas. So if regarding all of that, if anybody has a great idea and you want to work on something, you can. We would love to work with you. Just know that you will be the president and captain of all of your ideas. That's about how it goes. So anyway, but any questions or any thoughts? Those are just a couple of different things going on.
Okay, let's open it up. What do you want to talk about? Okay, we'll go adjourn for the World Series. Now, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Ladies first. Joe, park related. Trash cans. Is there a possibility to get some extra trash cans in the
Yes.
park? There's been a lot of.
I know.
Okay.
I know, it's true. We made a major effort by putting these beautiful gray trash
Yeah,
cans
great.
in. However,
I don't think there's enough.
this is something that's wrong with it, and it's good for us to all know this. The trash cans are big, and the bags are half empty. We have a nice lid on it so that the squirrels can't get in and cause ruckus with it. But when trash goes in, it seems to get caught and not move all the way down. So we do have to figure that out, because they really aren't full.
And we also had, Rob's predecessor, Mike Hall, we had little internal debates that Mike felt there should be fewer trash cans in Lake Park, and we felt that there should be more trash cans in Lake Park.
So we
We're
threw
going to
them out,
work.
and now I'm here.
Yeah, we're working next year to get more
Okay,
more
so
trash cans
that's on
over.
the
Yes.
agenda for- yeah, it'll
Yeah.
just be-
It just, it's a double-edged sword, okay? Because it puts a lot more stresses on public works, because somebody's got to go pick them all, collect it all, okay? So like when you just go decide to put a new trash can out, it doesn't, it's not just putting a trash can out, it's man hours now.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's all.
Less
Yeah,
litter.
we know.
It's not less litter.
Yeah,
But right now.
I agree with you.
It's true, we do agree, but those were a big expense and we had to kind of go with it. But a lot of litter is next to the trash cans because it's not going in.
I agree.
So we have to kind of figure that out. The other thing is trash cans in the park are not for people's homes, and people do that. It's kind of horrifying, but I'm going to come up with a little sign saying, go away if it's a Ziploc bag from your house. We have tax dollars toward that. This needs to be for people walking by with.
Go ahead, wait, something else?
And-
So the RFQ? Is that
Yes,
what
request for, yes.
Is that going to consider any other properties besides 434 and the,
No, it's just for 434.
so, okay, and they, during that study, they're not going to consider using the other two lots that are being looked at to be bought? The two doctor's offices next to 434? Are they going to consider?
No,
I'm just asking.
I know, I think you just asked it last week at the meeting a few times.
No,
It's
I
not-
didn't- I didn't
We
ask.
are only having them look at 434 Haddon Avenue property. Not that, there's two doctor's offices in front that we are having some discussions with about whether they're interested in selling. If they are, then fine. If they're not, which I don't have any deal with them, so we're just looking at the 434.
But you are having discussions.
I tell you what, we'll go around with everybody, okay? All right? Go ahead.
So that's all I was just asking. I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
only 434.
Okay, and so the planning for this, right, the RFQ, and that's getting paid by the capital fund, right?
Yes,
So-
yes.
I guess, where is the capital fund money coming from?
It's from the current budget that is part of just our annual budget.
So we haven't spent that yet?
We haven't spent what?
The capital fund?
We've spent some of what's in the capital improvement fund on different projects, but not all. We have money that is left in it. And that's a fund, a capital improvement fund that will, from time to time, carry forward in years.
Okay.
Okay, so if you allocate $100 to spend on public projects, and you only spend $50 this year, then 50 of that will carry the next year, and if you budget another 100, now you have 150.
How much is getting allocated for this study?
Well, we haven't allocated anything to it. We're going out on requests for qualifications. We'll get proposals in. We'll see what those proposals are, and then we'll either negotiate with someone or we'll make a decision about what money we would be spending on that. And part of that decision will be, are we okay within our budget to be able to spend it?
So ordinance 1625 on the books thing.
What is ordinance 1625? I'm sorry,
It's an
I don't know
ordinance
my
for
numbers.
$175,000 to do a planning study. For
It's not to do-
434 ad.
No, it's not to do a planning study.
It's,
It may have a number of different purposes for it. Acquisition of property, it may include, it may have a bunch of them listed, but it's not 175,000 just for a study, no.
I'm just
I
reading
tell you-
what's on the retrospect.
I'm sorry,
I'm just reading what's on the retrospect.
no offense to the retrospect, but that's fine. Take that up with the retrospect.
Preliminary
Get the
cost-
order, get the,
Preliminary costs for building, public buildings.
get the ordinance, that's all I can tell you. It's not,
I'm reading the ordinance right here from online.
okay, I'm happy to take a look at it and try and answer what you are. Is there a question with it?
Yeah, so my
or-
question is, you're spending $175,000 on a planning study for one site.
We're not.
Okay.
We are not spending $175,000 on any study,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
We're not.
But you're, okay, I'm just wondering how, how it's getting paid for, and I'm wondering why that's coming up in accordance with the other two ordinance you're passing for $1.5 million for those sites.
We have authorized a total of $1.5 million for acquisition of property and for soft costs related to looking at those properties. No, I don't think we've spent a nickel of it yet. okay? But we've authorized it.
Right, you haven't spent.
We've authorized it, yes.
Yeah, and you're under contract.
We're under contract to buy 434 Hatch.
For 445.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I understand you're not just planning, but you're only moving for one location, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
After, it's the fourth location, but correct, we're only doing one.
And is there a reason why we're not revisiting downtown? I mean, besides, I know there's gonna have to be gives and takes from everybody about, you know, pulling out, and farmers markets, clovers markets, stuff like that. But is it going to be considered only after 434 is off the books?
We want to find out what the feasibility of 434 Hatton is.
But they can't be done in parallel?
Well, we've already done some preliminary back here, and it doesn't work anywhere near what we expect 434. The issue with 434 has much better traffic, okay? We don't know if the footprint fits on that piece of land. So that's what we need to look at right there.
434 has many more neighbors.
They do. They do. You're right, they do. I know. I know. There's neighbors here too. There's people that live right back here on top of all these stores. There's neighbors here too. There's neighbors right across Atlantic Ave, right across the street like there are in Hatton.
But they bought knowing where they're.
No, they didn't buy knowing that there's a fire station across from them.
The fire station went up.
Fire station's over there. Fire station's over there.
Yeah.
You're talking about putting a fire station out here.
And police station right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so they still live downtown.
Okay. I
Alright.
understand you don't like what we're doing. I understand.
I just want a fair. I just
Mrs.
want
Laddick,
to
did you
plan.
want to?
Yeah, I agree with them, I totally agree.
Okay.
I know I spoke to you before about it.
Yes.
And I said we moved in there 51 years ago, and the speed line wasn't there. And a year later, the speed line comes in, so we've got that day and night, the speed line, it's loud. I'm right next to the speed line, I've got that day and night. And not only that, but we have a lot of children in that neighborhood. The school is a half a block away, the grammar school. The kids walk up and down Wallace Avenue, Zane, and Hatton. That's a big concern.
We understand. We're gonna look at the, like I've told you when we met, we're gonna look at the property, see if it works. We thought we had other locations.
What about us?
We-
If it works for you, what about us?
Then we go to the next step,
And
to have
what's that?
discussion
What's the
about
next
whether or not we do it there. At this point, we don't even know if it fits there. Okay? All right? Yes?
As I understand, the volunteer fire company owns the property of the firehouse right now?
Yes.
They own this building next door, yes.
What's going to happen is that if you move forward?
The
Don't know,
vol-
they keep the property, you can borrow buy it back?
The volunteers would keep the property. We've talked to them about whether or not we could make use of it for all of this, and it doesn't work. We don't believe it works as a firehouse, but they don't want it to be just a part of the borough project, so they would keep the firehouse and,
Have that?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My name is Robert Houston. I'm new to Collingswood.
Welcome.
Thank you. And my question is, I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and during my service, I served with what might be considered today undocumented workers. So with that, what is the current agreement or thought process as far as when ICE comes in with the police department and with the administration?
Sure. Kevin, you want to, it's basically when there's a crime, but go ahead.
So all we do is make notifications.
Could you come up here a little bit? What is that?
All we do is make notification to ICE, and in my years in the police department, they've never followed through on any of those notifications. Very, very few and far between.
When do we make notification?
We make notification if they're involved in a crime. We don't go out looking for people that might be undocumented or anything like that. It's only when they've committed a crime and we're trying to identify who they are. At that point, if we find out that they're not a U.S. citizen, we make notification to ICE. From there, they kind of conduct their own investigation. Like I said, we've made 2 notifications in my 14 years, and follow through on that has been 0.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, yes, sir.
Did Fire department gentlemen say that the sirens won't be used, that they'll be calling their people with a cell phone or some other device.
Yeah, that is
The siren that sits on top of the borough hall that is like the big wind-up air raid siren, that hasn't been used in over 6 years. So
That'll
we
be
wouldn't relocate a new one, we wouldn't use a new one at all.
No, they'll get, just Rob referred to like there was a call and it's all pagers.
Yeah, when the guys left a little bit ago, they went out on an urgent call. It was one of our priority calls, and we're right on top of the fire station. You didn't hear them leave, you didn't hear the sirens, no other warning devices. That's how we would normally be if there's not a lot of heavy traffic.
So the sirens are more a function of traffic than, you know, for, yes, sir.
Maybe, Toledo, hi again. So you're gonna bid, are you gonna have architectural firms? My question is, how many architectural firms or planners are you seeking to? Is it gonna be like a bidding to see who comes up with the most user-friendly, most innovative design?
Well, look, the whole point of why are we, how are we going to select an architect firm? So we're going out, we're working with Camden
Well,
County.
because it is a tight spot, so you have
sure.
to deal with.
It's in a neighborhood.
Combining the fire department, the police department, right? So this is something like a new concept, it's an ambitious project.
It's not, it's
Right.
really not new in the world
Well,
of
but
police
I
and
mean-
fire. It's new for us, but
It's
it's
new
not
for
new.
you. Yeah, but I'm just saying, so there has to be, you have to pick the best plan, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So is there gonna be like a bidding? Are you gonna have like more than one look into it?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We go out and publicly advertise it. There's some firms that have expressed interest, so we're going to be sending to them. They'll all submit. We'll look and evaluate based on what they built, where they built them, you know, what their cost is for services. It won't be $175,000. We'll be going over all that stuff, okay?
And I can't say for sure, but there are architectural firms that specialize in this type of institutional work that probably follow it because they essentially can skip the learning process. They know how to start. So I don't know who's going to come to the table, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a mix of local and people that are sort of.
Because it also boils down to monies, right? Who's gonna offer you the best,
Cheapest?
cheapest?
Yeah, best value, I would say.
Or the best, combining the both. Architecturally, who's gonna be the best?
Yeah, best value, yeah. And it's just another little bit that I didn't mention is, we're also looking, I don't imagine it would work at 434, but if we do anything back here, we're also looking about adding additional floors. Like back here, if we relocate borough offices to borough court off the building that goes off of this, we're also looking about the feasibility of adding a couple floors onto it that would be available for office rental, okay? So that we could do some kind of a public-private partnership that is a way to do a couple things. Generate revenue for us to help defray the other costs. Also, it does, having more people working here during the day helps the downtown because those people all go shop and have lunch and do something here in town. So we're looking at that too. All early concepts. What if any of you remember the old computer game SimCity? Like there used to be a game where you could build towns, and like that's kind of what we're looking at, that stuff to see if it's in any way feasible. Yes.
That neighbors living in the vicinity of 434, can we expect that we're going to have problems with our property value?
Listen, we don't think so. Realtors we talk to say no. We had a meeting with the neighbors the other night. Everybody believes like it is. So I think a whole lot of that depends on what's this building look like, if it's going to be there, what's it going to look like, what's the operation going to be, what's going to be, all those kinds of things. So we'll see. Listen, we've been doing this a long time, well, except for him. We've been doing this a long time, okay? We're not in the business of destroying neighborhoods, okay? We got a long track record about that. That's not what we do. If this ends up being, where we're taking more steps, we will do everything possible that will minimize any impacts on the neighborhoods around. that's our track record. I don't think anybody can really disagree with it. I think the stuff that we have been involved in development, even though there were people all upset and didn't like it, and you know, I got people around where the lumberyard is that were all upset, you know, they're not so much now, okay? Like, and so, you know, I just urge you, like, let us, I know it's difficult because it's all new, it's all a change on it, but we're trying to take everybody through with us on this one as we take a look and see what there is. Yes?
At the same time that you're doing this, the Board of Education is trying to do other things too.
Yes.
And the Board of Education states that they need a place for their offices. So,
Already chatted about that.
you know,
Yes,
maybe
there's a bunch of
that,
offices we may be able to build that would work. I
and
don't know
maybe
that
that would lower their price.
I don't know that we're going to talk more about it. Okay.
That's just, and then the other thing is, I live on 600 Avenue. Now, I have a new neighbor next door that is attempting to rent, it's a 2-unit rent. So there is a sign on right by my pole that says no parking on my side of the street. And I don't know how many people are parking on my side of the street, and I have to point to that sign. And they're just like 2 driveways down. Could you do something?
See, there's the guy in the black tie with the white shirt.
Bruce was writing it down, right now. Sometimes we just need to know, and I thank you.
That sign is like half.
Okay, we'll follow up. Thank you.
Yeah. You got it. We got the sign guys, we got the cops. Yes. Yes.
Change the topic just a little bit. My name is Joanna Schreiber. I am a resident of Peter Village, which is a 55 plus on the west side. And I'm here representing a group of us because we're quite unhappy with the management of Peter Village, and we've tried to address it ourselves, but they do not respond to us. So we wanted to come here and see if we could get some assistance, if we, if the borough could back us with some of the things that we have concerns about. The main thing is that since the new owner took over in 2011, rent increases have been exorbitant, and I mean they're every single year. And there's no rhyme or reason. This one gets $40 increase, this one gets $25. Everybody's saying something different. We don't understand their system of how to do it, and even though I know it's 55 plus, a lot of our residents are in their 70s, some in their 80s, and they don't want to have to move. And if you try to get to talk to management, they refuse. We've sent letters, certified letters. There's no response whatsoever from them. I've actually asked, the on-site manager if I could actually talk to, the owners know that they won't talk to anybody. I mean, and on top of that, we don't get any response on our needs. I mean, I can't tell you how many people just in a certain section where we live, we've been asking for a new floor. Our floors are all old and cracked and broken up, and there's a couple people they've been waiting 2 years now, and there's no even, well, we'll get to that maybe next month. They just don't even respond to it. I could go on and on, but those are the 2 main issues. That the rents are just, they might be appropriate, market value, I don't know, but the way that they do it, they don't communicate to us. We also heard that they were getting some kind of a tax break, and I think that that's kind of winding down, so I don't know if they're trying to, compensate for it by increasing our rents or not. But we're not supposed to file for the rent tax credit because of it, and we don't even know if we should be doing that now because I don't know if we still get the tax.
Okay, so a few different things there. One, about your rents. Not a lot we can do about that. We can try and set up a meeting with them. We have met with them. We met with them. I want to say it's probably a couple of years ago when they first took over, maybe once since then. Really,
Have you initiated that, or?
I think we did because we've been real concerned about the fence along the train. And I think that's getting replaced. I don't know if has it been replaced? It's been replaced, so that was a big safety concern we had. Yeah, and so, well, actually, nobody knew whose responsibility it was because it's Conrail's property. They were waiting for us, we were waiting for them. We got together with them at night. They said, hey, we'll take care of it, we'll replace it. So they did.
That's the police department.
Oh, well, it was a big one for us. It's a big one for public safety because there was holes cut through and bad guys, knew where those holes were, put it that way, okay? So with respect to the rent, we can try to voice those concerns, maybe try to coordinate a meeting, okay, try and do that.
I understand what their reasoning is of how they
It has,
justify, the different amounts that they give everybody.
it's been under a payment in lieu agreement, a pilot agreement for 15 years? So it's been under that for a long time, probably still has some time to go. So I don't know that that's a trigger point for the rent because it's kind of been that way. With respect to the interior of the units and any problem, like is that something that we can get in?
Property maintenance issues, if you're having issues with property
So-
maintenance or carrying that, we can handle that.
And maybe we can kind of double team it in terms of doing some, how about we talk a little bit after the meeting, okay? And go over about, we can get some of our rental inspectors in to take a look at it. It's kind of you guys, right? You guys here. Kind of sit down and go over it. We get some of our inspectors in to help you on that side of it. And maybe all of it like gets us to have some discussion with them. They're not always the easiest to communicate with us, I know that. But we'll,
Well, can I ask section two that we heard through the grapevine from staff that work for Pewter Village? I mean, there's retribution. If you write a letter, if you ask for, you report them for something, you're put on their list of people never get.
Okay.
It's just.
All right, we'll try. We will try to set something up with them. We'll try to coordinate it and have some discussion. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Yeah.
When you're rent $100, that's
Well,
yeah.
I can. We can facilitate it all, get it all together. Unfortunately, we can't like.
Right, I understand.
I can't do anything about your rent and stuff, but we can get them all together. But we also can do inspections at the property. Okay, I mean, there's more than one, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Yeah, there's things that we do. Yeah, there's things that we do. That's why I want to talk afterwards. See that camera that's running in the back there? I'd rather we talk afterwards. Some things I don't want to be transparent. Yes.
Before I came here tonight, I thought to myself, where is all the money going to come from for a new police and a new fire building? But the conditions that were shown to us are terrible. I mean, I don't know how anybody else felt, but I mean, the mold and the unsafety and the smallness of the work conditions, I think it's so much worse than I ever thought. From the outside, you would never know that it looks that way. So I think eventually, we need to have something new. And everybody really just wants to be considered in the decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, does anybody else feel appalled?
Yes.
Hi, I just recently moved here in June. And
Welcome.
thank you, but thank you. I mean, I am telling you, this town just blows me away. I am in awe.
This is my sister.
I'll take some water though. What you have here, if you've lived here your whole life, I hope you appreciate it. I thank each and every one of you that contribute either by by
You get water,
raising,
you get water.
Because you said something nice. That's all.
raising children that make eye-to-eye contact and saying hello.
Yes.
By walking down the street and saying hello. That's me. I do that. Somebody doesn't do that to me. And I'm like, oh my God, I do that too. And I have to tell you, there's something very sweet. There's something very, I heard Mayberry. I feel like I have a slice of heaven. If you see me at the farmer's market and I look like I'm spacing out, come say hello. But this place is charming. And I trust and I believe in the judgments and the decisions that these folks are making based on the history and what I have seen here. So I know it's money, but every other town before you has had to deal with these issues. Any other successful, you want to keep it the way it is. It's sweet. And so I thank you all. And oh, I had a really bad fall at the bank a couple weeks ago, and I think you put me in the ambulance.
Well, we're glad you're all right.
Yeah, well, I have a scar on my lip, but I can live with that. And thank you so much. Because before I lifted my head off the ground with blood all over it, they were saying, do you want an ambulance? And I'm like, I haven't come through yet, sure. But I'm glad I have insurance. Thank you. And thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. The only thing to make this better is, did you move from Haddonfield?
Gorgeous.
Rock everywhere. Okay, so our meeting is now over. So what else are we talking about? Yes.
I want to talk about the trash on Haddon Avenue, like when there's activities happening. It's really disgusting how some people are overflowing or destroying trash in your trash can. A lot of times you have the trash cans on the poles, which are sometimes half falling off, are filled, and they're just trying, just coming over and overflowing. I'm really glad that we have well-intended activities, but I mean, people do try sometimes, thank goodness, put trash in trash cans. We have bigger trash cans or something.
So for activities, you mean like the events?
Well, it seems to be worse, well, abbreviated or weekends.
So for the activities that are events, we take them off the poles because they're too darn small. Right. We put huge ones in the middle. We actually have a very secret orchestrated way of getting. We want to do Disney. We want to put a hole in the skin, make it go under like Disney, but we haven't figured out how to do that. So we grab them and like little mice, they go over to a corner, and we just keep doing it throughout the whole event. So even though it seems like there's this or that, there's so much effort to make it non-events.
And I'm gonna jump in. And I think it's something that we've talked about with local businesses and stuff that need to get home. Again, a lot of it, because I can tell you the big places, right? Warner parking lot, because you know what they do? They empty their cars. Hey, you know what? I got all this, I got the big gold bag. And so we've been sending people out more often, and sometimes we're on top of it, sometimes just some people will catch us, home stuff. But you're right. I think it's something, especially, it's not every spot, but there's a couple hot spots that we're looking at.
Don't hesitate if you ever see a full, like either online, you can let us know, or call. Because it also, we get a lot of residential trash, so tenant upstairs will be coming out, have a bag of trash,
which is
put it in the trash can, you know.
And that's one of the hot spot areas.
So the public works will just come running because somebody from upstairs threw out their baby diapers.
Yeah, so we gotta go, you know, or.
I'm walking through they're open, I walk by them, they've got a detergent bottle.
See, that's it.
Yeah.
I haven't planned for that, but I have to look it through.
Tide bottles, not so much.
We need a lid on it for the small things, saying non-residential, so that's more money we're playing, but.
Okay. Folks, yes, right there, just 1 second, yes.
The borough paying rent to the Heights for the detectives being over there right now?
No.
No.
What's that?
We pay for phones and.
Yeah, we pay for our utility operations, we're not paying rent.
You're not renting space?
We're not paying over rent, right, yeah. Well, we want to get them out, we don't want them, it's nice to have a police presence, but they need to be with.
They need to collaborate, they need to be together.
Yes, ma'am.
This is just a question. Joan Carmona, South Vineyard Boulevard. I've been there since 1966, and the address was 517 South Vineyard Boulevard. And down through the years, the sign said, after Boulevard, it became Vineyard Drive. And now it's Vineyard Avenue. And if anybody is looking for 517 South Vineyard Boulevard, The GPS tells them you have now arrived at 517 South Vineyard Avenue. And if I hadn't been looking out the window, the party went right by, and she said, I was totally lost. And I called her on her cell phone.
It's typically a post office thing. Like, we didn't rename the street. What is the name of the street? Yeah, we could look and see. Like, we haven't done anything to change the name of the
I pay
street.
taxes on Boulevard.
Well, you're gonna get a bill on the street too.
Maybe you should put the avenue.
We should try that more often.